I believe that what Lumen is doing, what they stand for, is something that can be a force for good in all of society and in leadership. And the topic today is leadership. And in fact, when I was invited on by Jim and by the Lumen Institute to speak to the Lumen Institute, to members of the Institute, to guests of the Institute on the topic of leadership, is a little bit overwhelming because of who's in this audience, who you are, your roles, your responsibilities as leaders. And it reminded me of the story of the guy that during his life he survives a great flood, the Johnstown flood. And then when he dies, he goes up to heaven, goes to the pearly gates, and St. Peter greets him, and he says, what would you like to do? And he said, I'd like to tell the whole congregation up here about my story of how I survived the Johnstown flood. And he said, are you sure you want to do that? Yeah, I'm sure. That's a great story. People are going to love it. And Peter says to him, okay, that's fine. You can do that. But you got to remember, you've got Noah in the audience. I've got a lot of Noahs in the audience here. I'm going to talk about leadership. I've got Noahs in the audience everywhere because of who you are, what you represent, the way that you lead. But I do believe that I can add some insight and some value to your leadership, to your companies, through this whole idea of trust. And I want to take on trust perhaps in a different way than you think about it, than we all think about it. Because trust is a topic that we assume, we take for granted, we underestimate, and we really often undervalue until we lose it. And then suddenly we recognize how vital it is. It's like the French proverb that says, fish discover water last. So the fish are so immersed in the presence of water that they're unaware of its existence because they're so immersed in its presence until the water gets too low or too polluted. So it is with people and trust. People discover trust last. We're so immersed in it as part of our fabric of our daily life, of civilization, of commerce, that we assume it, we take it for granted until it gets too low or becomes polluted. And then we realize how vital it is, sometimes too late. So rather than assume trust and underestimate it, I want us to be explicit about it, to talk about it deliberately, to talk about building trust on purpose and getting good at doing this as a leader, because it's the essence of real leadership. Leadership really is all about getting results in a way that inspires trust, so that our ability to get results the next time and the next time happens a little bit better, a little bit faster because of how we got results the first time. But if we get results in a way that diminishes trust in any fashion, then our ability to come back the next time and achieve those same results has gone down because of how we did it before. See, truly, the means are as important as the ends. The ends are vital, and we don't change our standards. Our standard is excellence, one of the values of Lumen. That remains. But the means, how we achieve that, is also vital, equally. And I suggest doing it in a way that inspires trust will help us in our leadership quest to become better leaders and more effective stewards. So, but let me begin, if I could, with a story. This is a trust story. And this took place a couple of years ago. There was a merger that took place. Berkshire Hathaway, run by Warren Buffett. And you all know who Warren Buffett is. They just ranked number 2 on the Forbes 400 list. Just also pledged $30 billion to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. He runs Berkshire Hathaway. He's known for his investment savvy. He's also known for his ethics, his integrity, and his leadership around this. Well, his company, Berkshire Hathaway, acquired another company from Walmart, McLean Distribution. McLean is in food services, $23 billion in sales. So this is not a little deal, this is a big deal. And here is how Buffett described doing this deal. He wrote about it in his annual report a couple of years ago as follows. He said this: to make the McLean deal, we had one single meeting of about 2 hours. We then shook hands. 29 days later, Walmart had their money. We did no due diligence. We knew everything would be exactly the way Walmart said it would be, and it was. Now, I worked for a short period of time in this city and did some investment banking, and deals of this size would typically take you 6 months or so to close. And you'll spend millions of dollars, if not tens of millions of dollars, in due diligence with accountants, attorneys, auditors, bankers, et cetera, and doing, verifying, validating the merger, the data, et cetera. And all that's considered good practice, and it is. But in this case, because there was high trust between the players and the parties involved, with that high trust, here they are, they're publicly traded companies, subject to SEC, Sarbanes-Oxley, all the rules, regulations, but they're able to do a deal in less than a month instead of 6 months, with no due diligence cost instead of spending millions in due diligence. That is the speed of trust. So you can't do that type of deal without trust. It'd be foolish to do it. There's even some risk in what Buffett did, but because of who he is, who his company is, what they represent and stand for, he has such credibility, such clout, he's able to move with an incredible speed that maybe others could not without, being too risky, poor judgment. But Buffett's able to. That's part one. Let me tell you part two of this deal. I told this story one time, and to a group of people, and one of the people came up to me afterwards and said, so Warren Buffett acquired McLean in 29 days. Let me tell you my story. Our company was acquired by Berkshire Hathaway, by Warren Buffett, and he did our deal in 28 days. He was thrilled to point out it was 1 day faster, and he said it was a similar thing. We did no due diligence. He asked, are these financials accurate? Can I rely upon them? Can I trust them? Can I trust you? Because that's vital for this to work. I said you could. We did the deal that fast. Now, let me tell you part three. Berkshire Hathaway, as you know, is a large company, conglomerate, with holdings in investments, but also they operate many, many companies, all these rolled up companies. Geico Insurance, Fruit of the Loom, McLean, others. There's at least 42, I think there's more now. 42 rolled up companies, 192,000 employees. So a typical conglomerate would have a pretty sizable corporate staff that would oversee these 42 companies, 192,000 people, of finance, HR, legal, accounting, audit, etc., staff to oversee it. Anyone care to guess how many people there are at Berkshire Hathaway's headquarters that oversees this? 17. 17. And that includes Buffett and his assistant. And it's because they operate on the premise of deserved trust, which is that they assume you deserve trust until you prove otherwise. They make it explicit that that's the way that they operate, but that's how they move forward. In fact, let me read you this from Charlie Munger, their Buffett's right-hand person. Charlie Munger says, everyone likes being appreciated and treated fairly. And dominant personalities who are capable of running a business like being trusted. That's how we operate Berkshire, a seamless web of deserved trust. We get rid of the craziness of people checking people to make sure it's done right. When you get a seamless web of deserved trust, you get enormous efficiencies. Berkshire Hathaway is always trying to create a seamless web of deserved trust. Every once in a while it doesn't work, not because someone's evil, but because somebody drifts to inappropriate behavior and then rationalizes it. How can Berkshire Hathaway work with only 17 people at headquarters? Nobody can operate that way, but we do. It's not rocket science, it's elementary. Why more people don't do it, I don't know. Perhaps because it's so elementary. Tell you part four of the story. All these companies that have been acquired, in almost every case, the CEO is now independently wealthy. They could do whatever they wanted, and after maybe their agreement expired. And to my knowledge, in every case, either the person is retired or is still with the company, but they haven't gone on to start their new next thing, to go lead another group. And you wouldn't see that happen in many situations where the former CEO now is independently wealthy, reporting into somebody. But in this case, because Buffett trusts them, he has over 40 direct reports. All these people report into him. They like being trusted, and they stay there because trust brings out the best in people. It's the most compelling form of human motivation. Now, I use that story just to illustrate that this is not some nice, soft Pollyanna topic that says, just go out and trust anybody and everybody, and it's a good thing. So I'm using hard-edged economics. Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway, public companies, doing deals, doing mergers, having all the challenges that you have, and showing that you can still do this, operate with trust, a deserved trust, and perform in the marketplace, be subject to all the rules, and still make this happen and make it work well. In fact, when we talk about trust, that's one of the challenges, is that there's so many conceptions of it, misconceptions of it, of what it is and what it isn't. Here's a common one. This whole notion of something like this. That this is a soft, warm, fuzzy topic. Soft and warm, nice, fuzzy, etc. But you can't get your arms around it. And I want to take some of those myths head on and reshape this topic for you. And I really have 3 big ideas that I hope to get across in this seminar. And I want to challenge you with these and really get you into it. You may not agree with it all the way, but at least be challenged by it. Think about it. And especially when we get into the application ideas, I would challenge you to apply that. See what happens. I was talking to Mike beforehand. Where's Mike, who I was talking with? Right here. Yes, and he was saying, you know what? It was interesting when I read your book, but at first I wondered if it was, does this really work? So I decided to try it. And what I found was it actually worked. People responded to it. It mattered, and it worked both at work and at home. So I challenge you to listen to these ideas and go ahead and think about them, but give them a try. So here's the 3 ideas. The first is that there's a compelling business case for trust. It's not just some soft thing. There's a business case for it. The second is that trust, more than anything else, is the key competency of leadership needed today in this new global economy. The ability to engender trust, more than anything else, matters to a leader, especially today in this new economy. And then third, that trust is a competency. It's a skill. It's actually something you can learn, you can do, you can get good at. Yes, it's an outcome, but in addition to being an outcome, it's something you do, something you learn. You can get good at trust. And that's what we'll spend the bulk of the seminar on, is that third point, how you do this, how you get good at this, how you establish trust, how you grow it as a leader, as a company, with all your stakeholders, with customers, shareholders, also with business partners, suppliers, distributors, and especially with coworkers, with your teams, your staff, with each other. How you do this and how you do it so you do it fast. So it doesn't have to be slow. So those are the 3 big ideas. First, a business case for trust. Second, this is the key competency of leadership needed today, more than any other. And third, that you can get good at this. And I'll show you how. So let's take this on. And let me begin by going through some of the myths about trust, and then give you the reality. I've mentioned some of this already. One myth is that trust is a soft, nice-to-have social virtue. See, I've never met anybody that was against trust and said, no, trust is not a good thing. Everyone says, yes, it's a good thing, but still for many, it's a nice-to-have thing.